Thank you. My name is Pascal Müller, and Samuel Thoma, my partner, he will then have the second part of the lecture. So, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to present our work here in Kyoto. It's a bit special for us. I founded the office 2001. I worked for Shigonguir 3 years, and my partner, ETH Zürich, which I founded the office, he worked for at Herzog Dömerow, and he was also assistant for Katsuyama Sejima at the ETH in Zurich. Samuel Thoma then joined the office from the beginning and became partner 2006. So it's kind of special because Peter Sigrist died last year, and so we changed our office a bit, and so it's also our first lecture together, me and Samuel, to have the lecture together at once, so it's also a test for us. We would like to emphasize a bit also our work or our built work to reflect also the fact that why we work or what is our philosophy in the office, because we are kind of architects or our architecture is not only for you as an architect. We don't make architecture for architects. We think it's important that it's for the society. We reflect what brings it to the user. It's for us also a building is not only for sleeping or for working, but it's also always a gift to the society, a reflection about people who use it or who sees the building. And I mean, this is not only then the architect or the one who writes the critics, it's also about people who lives in the city. So in this way, house as a small city, it's also that we try to build or plan a house as a city. The other way around, it's become that it's well known a city should be a house, and a house can be like a city. For fulfilling the needs or why there is building or architects, here's a good quote of Josef Frank, who also wrote a book which is called The House as Way and Plaza, or Way and Square. And he said that the rules for good housing as an ideal do not change in principle. They only need to be considered again and again. So it's not, the needs are the same, but how you turn it into space, how you design and how you make the space, this we have to reflect every time because society is changing. So that's also the base of our architecture, to consider the needs of the people who need it. First, a house for a private client in Switzerland, in Muri near Bern. A house which lies on a small slope, compact house which turns in all directions. It's a very hillside, and it provides on the top also a magnificent view. This is the entrance, the north entrance, so it's quite close. And the aim was here to reinterpret also villas from the 19th century, the town villas, which providing a moderate higher density than the small single housing units which are in the neighborhood. The house includes an additional semi-detached apartment with 2 bedrooms. The main apartment, the main unit has 7 bedrooms. Here the idea was also that as a house, as a small city, it was about the way we designed the way how you walk through the whole house, which was a master at his time, Victor Horta. Also in very narrow spaces he achieved a very interesting way how to wind up, how to go up to the levels by accessing with staircases. See also here in section maybe, it's a bit pale, but that we tried to put in the middle of the house a vertical access to all the bedrooms. The ground floor, the first picture you saw was from north, from here, from this side, and it's organized that the big villa has the entrance on north coming in, and the small two-bedroom unit has the entrance on the other side, so they don't come together. In the middle you see the main staircase, which winds up in this big hall over the whole building. Second floor, and here now you see like a windmill, all the rooms are around this staircase where you then come and profit from every direction through all sides. You have the nice views. And then the rooftop, second floor, where you can access the attic roof terrace. Starting second floor. You also see a very simple, the floor, the staircase are made in oak wood, and all the walls are white with plaster. Then winding to the top, you walk around the house, go up towards the light. Finally reach the terrace. Then there is also a covered sitting place on the ground floor. The facade is concrete. The insulation is inside because we have to insulate our houses very much in Switzerland. The concrete we made with, we went further, and it was kind of a paint, a lasur, pigmented, two colors. So we also had this changing, that it was not just a solid block, but it had a more attitude towards more diversity to bring also into the concrete facade. Another point, city as hybrid, is which we are always a bit fascinated also since the study at the ETH. We were working at this topic, how to bring together different function, different uses in one, not like this image here, which is really a built prototype. They planned this in the 50s. But more than not to have the separate forms or separate functions stick to each other, but to bring it into a new unity, that there becomes something new. We started this in a competition for winter tour, which we didn't win. You see here all the studies, how we try to achieve a big complex here with shopping mall, hotel, and housing. How we can bring this together, that it starts to get a new form, which brings a new unity. Here also a nice example. It's an old topic, already almost 100 years or 90 years ago. Henri Sauvage in Paris, maybe you know this, that where you don't, it's really melted together all the different functions here with the swimming pool almost on ground floor, and then with the dwellings which goes up. So we have really some types now which are under construction, or we could win, which follow this kind of typology or this kind of thinking, how to bring different uses together into a new form. Here, a shopping mall, commercial center, which on top has 30 apartments for elderly people, and on the left side, which is also together, is then the function hall and a library, public library, for a small village near Zürich, half an hour out of Zürich. Here the site plan. You see this, the complex, which then forms together here the plaza, and with the two rises going up to make this trinity, these three rises, these three houses, which comes together and marks the center of this small town. So you see here on the ground floor also that then you have to work with this wide span in the ground floor, trying to push all the elevators and staircases to outwards, so you get a maximum flat surface for using for the supermarket. On the other side, you see the entrance to the foyer, and then the hall, which is here on this side, and the stage at the end. This then the terrace floor with starts then the apartments. You see here you can come up, or here you can come up for the apartments, and then there is one typology, one unit is row housing, but on the roof of the commercial center. The facade is planned to be a combination with concrete, prefabricated concrete, and bricks in between, so that it gets also this unity and solidity. Here a rendering of this terrace floor, also kind of cherry blossom in Switzerland. A model of the interior, we try to work a lot also with models to control the shape, to control the size, with no Photoshop or design. It's really built like this. And then here a visualization professional for the selling prospect, the living room. Another type I just show shortly is then another commercial center with offices and 32 apartments on top, which follows the same typology. You see then the unity becomes, and it goes up with the dwellings. So also here the facade, which was planned in brick, which is now starting the construction in 2 months or 3 months. Here then we also had the task of having the old commercial center, which is on the left side, bringing together with the new, which is on the right side. So there was in my competition to make a kind of a mall passage, covered passage, where we tried to connect this with a steel structure, a new roof connecting the two, which is then a visualization, which then unfortunately we didn't win. We all have all our projects are won by competition. We never have direct clients or clients which give us direct tasks. It was really always by competition. And this one here now, the extension for the new roof, we didn't win because the client said it's too nice, it will distract the people from shopping. So the topic, house as a small city or as a city, is an old topic. Even already 100 years ago, Leon Battista Alberta, in his famous book, 10 books about architecture, he wrote a bit in old English because it was also translated from Latin to English and all this. So he said, basically, I don't want to read everything, but that he says that like squares and the forum, which is the public place, which would be now maybe the main station within the city, the house, you also will have an atrium, a hall and rooms where you will welcome the guests, where you have public spaces, even in the most private housing. So I think this is also for us, it was important also to change, to see this topic that house as a small city, you really can design even the smallest house also as a city. This then, the bigger house, the Kalkbreit in Zurich, which is just now, was just finished, also a competition which we won. It was a public, open public competition think over 150 architecture office wanted to join, and then 60 or 70 handed in. Here then it was really about the goal together with the city, the client, which is a cooperative. It's a cooperative housing complex with 40% commercial spaces. The goal was to give something back to the city, because the whole area here, this triangle, was used for parking trams outdoor. So there was only a fence, and in the middle of the city it was not very good used land, which the community or the quarter, the neighborhood wanted to use, because it was dark at night, was not very friendly for their area. The project combines business and housing, and it covers and encloses a new tramway depot. See it here in the section. On top there is a public park or a public plaza, which also is open for the neighborhood, where they can come and are guests here for the cooperative housing. You see then also the mixture, the tramway in the middle as a core. Till this level you will have the commercial and office spaces, and from here on it starts the housing, the cooperative housing, from here till to the top, in total 8 stories. Inside the tramway depot, and you see then the combination of a triangular plot plus the geometry of the rails and the housing made it quite complex. So we had to span here really now not only typology or the house as a hybrid, but really a hybrid construction, that we had to use steel, a bridge construction steel to span over the exit of the tramway depot. You see here then on the construction side, and then the street view, the finished street view. And now it changed from being a dark place, an open public place with a lot of different commercials and shops, even a cinemas here, to restaurants, doctor's house, and office spaces are welcome the guests. You see here then on top here it's changing, this is the living. As I mentioned, the construction, you don't see it from outside, but it's a hybrid construction. I showed you the steel construction for the bridge, and the other is in prefabricated column, and there's also a part that is only constructed in wood. The whole facade is prefabricated wood elements with the windows made in the factory, brought by trucks, and then attached to the floors. So this also was a way to reducing building time. You see then here the material of the facade. It's an envelope of the folding out of the facade, the outer facade, the street facade, with a socle, a base, which has more solid, the tiles, the glass tiles, and the upper part then is plaster. In the interior it's only plaster, and you see also the change of the scale from the outside, the 8 stories, then inside you have the courtyard with the 3 to 5 stories. In plan it looks like this, that because of the tramway it's moved everything out. It's also special that the client, the cooperative housing, the cooperative wanted to go further also for social things, so it's one of the few houses which has no private parking cars. No private cars can park here. It has no parking space, but a huge garage for bicycle, which you can see here or here. Because also the aim that you don't really need a private car within the city. Then the terrace level, with all the mixed functions for the cooperative. The cooperative, it's really like that they have the foyer, they have a cafeteria for themselves. They even also has a pension, kind of a bed and breakfast to welcome also guests to sleep there and stay there overnight or for a week. So you arrive here, the public stair going up, and then the interior view of the courtyard, the public courtyard, which is the core actually of this housing complex. So then also the client wanted to have more. The cooperative wanted to really trying to establish different housing forms. So we had to achieve from small units, really small units, which are only for 25 to 30 square meters, which are on top. So they're all in the same scale. We have 97 units, which range from the 17 square meters, which is the smallest room, till to the 250 square meters, 8-bedroom on the bottom. They're organized around 7 vertical cores with stairway and elevators, but also then we introduced this interior street in orange to show also, which was then the idea to connect all the housing apartment with the collective units in the house. So it's kind of interior street which connects all the public uses which they can use. So then here it was our vision, this was a part already of the competition, this section, fold-out section, to show also, to build the vision of the client, to show it in a space, this living together, coming together within this street as a communication zone where you can meet the neighbor and talk with them. This then in the plan where you see this interior street, you have the foyer, you come up and you can walk both ways through the whole house, to the house dwelling, and always take another stair here going up to the next level. This is the view of the lobby. Also here with a waiting area. On the left side there would be the laundry for making your washes, clean your clothes. You can wait here, and then also it was the idea then also to have a public library where you can bring back your books which you read and you don't need anymore. So it's also about sharing all the things which you can share for all the inhabitants to reduce your own private space. The view of the interior street. Then here also you see our contribution that we didn't want to have the small units kind as in a hotel. We wanted to bring them together in groups. We call them clusters. So always 10 small rooms, single rooms, but they have one big common extra room, which is this one, which has a balcony. So here you can welcome your guests, or these 10 apartments together, they can come together here and cook together or be together in the evening. You see them here also. This always has double height spaces that it brings light into the interior street. At the end, you can exit to the rooftop, to the terrace, and use the terrace. There is an exterior stair, cascade of stairs coming back, going down to the courtyard. So you really can walk around the whole house and come over the rooftops back, and all the roofs then, the other apartments except of these cluster rooms, they don't have private balconies. The balconies are together. It's also a collective exterior living where you can barbecue outside together with all the inhabitants. Or plants, you have your plants here and you can use them to share with this. So in this way, this project was also to do a house in the middle of the city, which works like a city complex, and you work and sleep and are together with all your inhabitants, where the trams sleeping downstairs. So I give the hand now, the microphone to someone for the next project.
Thank you. I will just continue with another housing project. We have some similarities with the one we just saw, but it's not in the center of the city Zurich. It's more in the north, where there is a lot of need for growth. That's is also the background. Is we have several cooperative commissions. Because of that growth and these cooperative people, they redo the houses from after the war, and so this combination led to the result that we have such several such projects. In that one especially is really a kind of piece of city. As you can see, it's quite a dense project, how the buildings stand to each other. And the other special thing was also that it was divided in 4 offices, so we had to do a cooperation also with other architects. In that one image visualization, you see the main square, because also one issue is if the building stands quite close to each other, we want to introduce also, of course, some public spaces. And then out of this idea competition, which you see a bit on the top, there was different issues from how to use roof gardens, or how to, which spaces could be common spaces to share. And out of that we developed various topics for each house. So basically all the offices had for each house own typologies, or that you have a kind of not just copy several buildings, but there's like a complexity and several architectural topics. In that one, the house D, you see, maybe in the right down, you see this one has like almost double height living rooms, which we could introduce, and also which is normally not, you don't get in every cooperative housing project, such a generous space. That was also then in the visualization. You see on the left the corridor, which has a normal room height, and then you approach to the living room and have this overhead space. Another issue was then that, of course, all the facades are different, and we had to find ways to work and make a lot of models then, because to also see how does these buildings come together, how do they stand beside each other, and how does it work with the colors, of course. In that one, for example, we had to kind of play with as you see, it has 2 depths of the plaster facade, and also the proportions of the window are kind of changing. And also in the house H, you see the other issue that it's very deep building blocks, it's very deep, so we had to do in the center like the staircases, and surrounding like the bathrooms and wardrobes. And then in the middle you see also there are some types which is like going through, so you can live, you can experience the whole depth of the house, meaning that you have like this long living room with the loggia, and then walking back in this a bit darker area, and then on the other side are the bedrooms. That's now the stage of nearly being finished. That's like a typical like a situation with the loggia and the open, always open kitchen, living room situation. To mention, this was also one of the projects with a general contractor. So besides the one we saw before, we also in some of the details, we don't have the same influence is if we do it in a traditional way normally. So that means in some details we have to go a bit back. Then in the house E we had another topic was this so-called vertical garden, which in the balcony there's always like a pot which is done in concrete on the side, and it has a water access. And the idea is that then later, as you see it in the visualization, this garden is growing and covering basically the whole facade, and you have this kind of little cosmos of plants on the facade. That's another view from the state of the building site. It's just being now done, these, also this net, this metallic net which connects each floor and which will be then the ground for the plants to grow. And that's another floor plan. Maybe you see on the right side how it is working with this balcony, and also it's nice you have access from almost then all the rooms directly to the balcony. That's another project we finished in 2012. It's also cooperative, 130 dwellings, and again in the north of Zurich. Here the concept was that we had there was a quite noisy street, so we did one long building in front, which helps this situation, and then in the back are these freestanding houses which are orientated on 4 sides. That's what I mentioned in the beginning. That's a comparison between how to rise the density. On top you see the existing housing on the plot, which was like from the 40s, 1946, around that time was built with a low density. This was this typical 3-story houses with a lot of generous garden spaces in between. And on the down you see our proposal also with this blue scheme that you see the rise of the density, the comparison in this section situation. Then this is a ground plan where you see basically with the grey surface you can access the houses directly and enter go to each entrance, and in between are these green fields which we wanted to continue like it was in the old project, in a sense that still the density is higher, but still you have certain green areas in between. That was then one of these outside spaces, which is really used now by kids. In that one, we try to do with it's a kind of rubber-based surface, as you know it from tennis courts. And we modeled this outside space, so it's really a nice playground. Then you see the 2 typologies. Just quickly, on the left is the building on the street, which has the core bathrooms in the middle, and then towards the noisy side you have this living room and the kitchen in an open space. And then towards the quiet side you have all the bedrooms. Then the freestanding house, as I said, has always these big balconies which you can access from the living room and eating, and is all sides orientated. Normally one flat has two sides of orientation. These are the sections. The section through the long building. Also, it's changing a bit the height because the surrounding is also maybe on the street. We found it better to have like several stories, like 7 stories, and towards the neighborhood it's a bit lowering down. This again the final stage, where you also can see this play with the balconies that generates a kind of double space height when you stand on your balcony, and the next one comes not above you but like 2 stories above. Then there's also, traditionally there's like a space which you can share and do like little birthday parties and things like that. And that was also a room we created also this fireplace that is a bit of warmer kind of atmosphere and has this especially fabricated tiles we made for this project. And then this is a move to the city of Basel. That's where the office of Herzog Dömerow is, as you might know. And it's in Münchenstein, an area near Basel where there's been this whole plot called Dreispitz is being transformed. As a sample there you see it's at the campus of the arts. Our site is the number 2, which is a refurbishment. And then the number 1 is more lately, that's a tower which belongs to the school we did. And then you see various other projects, for example, that you might see. The number 3 is an archive, offices and apartments by Herzog Dömerow, and other renovated warehouses, so there will be also space for artists, gallery space, and to kind of reactivate this area. And this is a photo from the archives. Our building, there is they store goods from the trade, and as you can see, it was really the situation that you have the building, and then the ramps where the train could access to bring the goods. And inside, we were fascinated by this kind of mushroom columns. It's really it's a nice structure. You can always see this shape, and it's a bit changing from floor to floor. And so that's basically how we found the building when we started working on it. And we made also the structure model to say, okay, for these art spaces, it's the really art school that we wanted to take out as many walls as possible, and then to, as you see on the floor plan, to make really generous spaces for the ateliers, and like here, and then on the section you see these 4 stories, and of course we had to also introduce new staircases that it works for the activity of the school. This is a bit closer. That's so one typical big atelier space on the end of the building. That was also the intervention. We had to cut out some slabs during the construction, and also to keep it, to hold all the weight, we had to do with the engineer such provisoric interventions. From the outside we kept some elements which was still from the time before, and then in concrete we made this new so-called stage. It's in front of the building, where they can do the students in the summer, they can meet, and there's also a little cafe, and that was the idea when they come from a lecture or they go back to their atelier, that they have an outside space where they can meet. Another element was, this is the new staircase which I mentioned, and also the floors we kind of liked. There was several transformers and change of use before we did our intervention, and so we found there's a lot of different floor materials, and we wanted to keep that, so really the students can still feel there are some new elements which has been changed, but this kind of charm or of the old materials, you see it in different elements, also like here in the flooring. Another view, then we can see some of the ateliers, always these two things, what I said, the columns, which are very important, and then the floors, and then of course we had to introduce all the techniques like lighting, air condition, which is everything visible on the ceiling, and then as you go up, you're under this roof, which we had to cover because of fire protection reasons, but still you have an extra height, of course, because you're in this most upper part, like here. And then there was two special situations. Also, this one is like for special meetings or celebrations in the school, that we cut out one slab and make this double height space, which also we kind of adapted these columns as a theme, and this is like so these 4 columns are new, they were made in concrete on the side. Also, since the building is very deep, we had the corridor and then introduced many such big windows, which you have a certain communication, or you can see now what is the other department doing, and you can see people which you know, and at the same time you can close it with curtains if it disturbs. So that was kind of the situation. And then also, of course, what we kind of liked is now when we go 1 year later or so, you see the students, how they took over the space and they really also use it. And that's also another thing what Pascal mentioned. We in that sense, we don't do this only for ourselves to publish, but it's very nice when you see actually later the people likes the architecture we did. And this is the final project to show. This was a function hall. It's in the east of Switzerland. I will come back to how the shape was developed. It's important to know also in our proposal, compared to many others, we didn't put the building on the street, which this would be here, but it's a bit setback, which gives you, which generates a square to do things or to do markets. And then an issue was also, that was the existing hall, which was actually quite nice, and it's really literally called a party hall. So people are meeting there and doing several kinds of parties in the village. And then this as a reference, we also had is really what is important if we do such a party hall must be the people itself, that they are kind of the user and they are the center of the happening. And the other reference was the tent. It's like a circus tent, which we also thought that could be an interesting reference because of this building is not like a box, or it's directed only on the stage for music or something, but it's really like covering the event and the people. That led then to a variety of studies of the shape. How could it be transformed in a shape? And also, of course, it has a certain sculptural aspect. And here you see quickly how is it built up, the floor plan. So in the middle you have the the main hall, of course, which you enter by the number 2 through the foyer. Then you have a stage and a window which connects you to the exterior. And then on the side walls you have kind of all the like the side functions like a kitchen and toilets and so forth. Then this is the section. You see underneath there's just one story of parking. Then on top you see this shape with the stage, the window, and there's also a chance to go up and have 2 galleries to look down on the event. Then basically the construction was a concept which was, since the competition stayed the same. It's that basically the walls are made by concrete, and then on top we planned to do a steel construction, which was then on the side like this. You see down the concrete and then built up like this kind of spider shape, the steel which meets then in the center. And then outwards it was, we thought, okay, it's quite a countryside. We use like a copper, which is not a very expensive material. It's kind of common, and you know it also in other buildings. And of course it then transforms during the time, the copper, so now it's much darker already. This is from the time of after it was completed. In the meantime, the copper is changing. Then you enter a building, and inside we used these quite strong colors and developed a skin which is behind this the materials for the acoustic, that you of course need a good acoustic for these spaces. And for the final slide, and the hall, when you stand on the gallery looking down in the hall with the stage and the view outside. So thank you very much.